The upscale restaurant in downtown Chicago was known for its elegance, white marble floors, soft jazz playing in the background, and customers who believed high prices entitled them to unquestioned comfort. Crystal glasses reflected warm light from the chandeliers, and servers moved quickly, trained to be invisible. Near the back wall, two little girls stood quietly, trying not to be noticed. Emily was 8, Rose barely 10. They wore clean but faded clothes, their shoes a little too worn for a place like this. They were waiting for their mother, Maria, who worked as a cleaner in the same restaurant. Her shift had run late again, and the manager had ordered the girls to stay out of sight until she finished. At one of the central tables, a well-dressed customer laughed loudly and gestured with his hand. His elbow struck a wine glass. It toppled, shattered, and spilled dark red liquid across the spotless floor. The sound echoed sharply, turning heads. Before anyone could react, the floor manager rushed over. His expression was not concern, but irritation, less about the mess, more about the inconvenience. His eyes landed on the girls. "You!" he snapped, pointing. "What are you standing there for?" Emily flinched. "Sir, we were just waiting for our—" "Don't talk back," he interrupted, his voice sharp enough to cut. "Look at this mess." "But we didn't do anything," Rose whispered, clutching her sister's hand. The manager glanced around, aware of the watching diners, and something ugly settled into his expression. Power, when noticed, often seeks to perform. "If you're going to stand around like beggars," he said loudly, "you'll clean it." A server stepped forward hesitantly. "Sir, I didn't ask you," the manager snapped, then leaned closer to the girls. His voice dropped, cruel and deliberate. "Clean it with your tongue." For a moment, no one breathed. Emily's eyes filled instantly. Rose shook her head in disbelief, tears rolling freely now. The humiliation was worse than fear. It was public, deliberate, and complete. A few customers looked away, pretending not to hear. Others watched in silence, uncomfortable but unmoving. No one spoke up. The girls stood frozen, small against the polished room, their shame spread as wide as the stain on the floor. At a corner table sat a man alone, dressed simply in a black suit, his silver hair neatly combed. He had been observing the restaurant quietly since arriving. He noticed details most people missed. How staff spoke when they thought no one important was listening. How quickly kindness disappeared when authority appeared. The man's name was Daniel Whitmore, though no one in the room recognized him. He was the founder of Whitmore Holdings, the billionaire owner of dozens of luxury establishments across the country, including this one. He had come unannounced, as he often did, believing truth revealed itself only when it wasn't expecting to be watched. He had seen arrogance before. He had seen... Daniel Whitmore walked forward with calm, deliberate steps, the kind that carried weight without haste. Conversations around the room faded, as if the air itself had been pulled away. The manager turned, annoyed at the interruption, clearly unprepared for anyone to challenge him. "Is there a problem here?" Daniel asked quietly, his voice even but firm. "This doesn't concern you." "Sir," the manager replied, forcing a thin smile, "we're handling an internal matter." Daniel's eyes shifted briefly to the girls. Emily's face was wet with tears, Rose's hands shaking as she held her sister close. He looked back at the manager. "I heard you give them an order," he said. "I want you to repeat it." The manager's jaw tightened. "They made a mess. I told them to clean it." Daniel didn't move. "How?" A pause stretched too long. The manager laughed nervously. "Sir, they're children. Don't exaggerate." "I'm not," Daniel replied. "Repeat your words." Something in Daniel's tone unsettled him. The manager straightened his jacket, pride pushing him forward. "Fine, I told them to clean the spill." "That's all?" "With their tongue?" Daniel asked calmly. The room inhaled as one. The manager's face flushed. "Sir, they're just cleaners' kids. They need to learn discipline." That sentence changed everything. Daniel took out his phone, unlocked it, and placed it on the nearest table. The screen showed an incoming board call, his name glowing unmistakably at the top. "This restaurant is operated by Whitmore Holdings," he said. "I am Daniel Whitmore." A wave of shock moved through the diners. Servers froze. A glass slipped from someone's hand and cracked softly against the floor. The manager stumbled backward. "Mr. Whitmore, I didn't know—" "You didn't need to," Daniel replied. "Decency doesn't depend on who's watching." He knelt in front of the girls, lowering himself to their level. His voice softened instantly. "You did nothing wrong," he said gently. "Not a single thing." "I'm sorry you were spoken to like that," Emily sniffed.
"Are we in trouble?"
Daniel shook his head. "No, you're safe." He stood again, the warmth gone, replaced by steel. "You abused your authority," he said to the manager. "You humiliated children to feel powerful. That makes you unfit to lead anyone." The manager's hands trembled. "Please, sir, I can explain—" "There is nothing to explain," Daniel cut in. He turned to the staff. "Anyone who witnessed this and stayed silent will attend mandatory ethics training. Anyone who supports this behavior will be dismissed." Security had already been alerted. 2 guards approached. "You're terminated," Daniel said. "Effective immediately. Leave the premises." The manager's protests dissolved into whispers as he was escorted away. His authority stripped in front of the same crowd he had tried to impress. Daniel removed his jacket and placed it gently around Rose's shoulders. "Where is your mother?" he asked. "She's still cleaning," Emily said softly. The next morning, the restaurant felt different. Word had spread quickly, moving faster than any official statement. Staff members spoke in hushed tones, replaying the moment again and again, each retelling heavier than the last. By noon, Whitmore Holdings released a public announcement condemning the abuse of power and reaffirming its zero-tolerance policy toward humiliation, especially involving children. The message was brief, but its impact was immediate. Maria arrived at the corporate office later that day, her hands shaking as she clutched her worn handbag. She expected anger. She expected blame. She had lived her life bracing for bad news. Instead, she was escorted into a quiet conference room where Daniel Whitmore himself stood to greet her. "I'm sorry for what your daughters experienced," he said simply. The words broke something inside her. Tears came before she could stop them. "I tried to protect them," she whispered. "I never thought—" "You shouldn't have had to," Daniel replied. "That responsibility was ours." He explained that her cleaning contract was being terminated, not as punishment, but because it was being replaced. Maria was offered a full-time administrative position within the company, complete with benefits, flexible hours, and a salary she had never imagined earning. She stared at the paperwork, convinced it was a mistake. "For my girls?" she asked quietly. "For you," Daniel said. "And for them." Emily and Rose waited outside, their feet swinging nervously. When Maria stepped out with red eyes and a stunned smile, the girls knew something had changed. For the first time, their mother stood taller. Weeks later, Daniel returned to the restaurant. This time, Emily and Rose walked beside him, their hands clean, their faces calm. Staff lined up respectfully, the memory of that night still fresh in their minds. Daniel addressed them briefly. "Power reveals character," he said, "and silence protects cruelty. Neither will be tolerated here." New policies followed swiftly. Mandatory dignity training, anonymous reporting systems, clear rules protecting minors and vulnerable individuals. The company didn't frame it as charity, but as responsibility. The girls were enrolled in a private school through the Whitmore Foundation. They received new backpacks, new books, and something far more important, confidence. Emily discovered she loved reading. Rose developed a quiet fascination with science. Their laughter returned, light and unguarded. One evening, months later, Daniel received a handwritten letter. The handwriting was uneven. "Thank you for seeing us when nobody else did." He folded the letter carefully and placed it in his desk drawer, among contracts worth billions, because some things he knew were priceless. In a city built on ambition and noise, 2 little girls learned that dignity could be defended, that cruelty could be stopped, and that sometimes when one person stands up, the world listens. And for